Israel has carried out an assault on Iranian soil on the morning of Friday 19th of April in response to Iran's recent attack. The attack was modest in scale, with Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir mocking the Israeli attack on Iran as lame. Tehran took the decision to downplay the attack, which would suggest its desire to avoid escalation. Israel targeted an Iranian military airbase with micro-air vehicles in Iran's Isfahan city. In Syria, an Israeli missile strike targeted an air defense unit in the south and caused material damage. Israel's attack is likely a symbolic show of force that signals that Israel can reach Iranian territory without needing mass barrages of missiles, while also seeking to avoid a large response from Iran that would escalate the conflict. Israel's strikes seem to match the level of Iran's April 13th attack in terms of the negligible damage caused. Israel's actions are meant to communicate to Tehran that Israel can strike and damage Iranian military assets inside the country if provoked again. Israeli officials, including far-right minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, criticized the Israeli response to Iran's attack, signaling that some Israeli officials are dissatisfied with the response and might demand further follow-up strikes against Iran. The possibility of a second U.S. civil war is becoming increasingly plausible, according to a new study, with additional insurrections even more likely. According to the team from California State University, there are striking similarities between the 1850s, the decade before the first Civil War, and today, the team said, "Our purpose is to compare the zeitgeist of the divisive decade before the Civil War, on the one hand, with today's hyper-partisan era on the other, demonstrating the two periods do indeed have extensive, striking similarities. In the U.S. of today, society is again split over many issues, such as abortion, immigration, gun ownership, identity politics, and, almost 4 years on, the legitimacy of the 2020 presidential election. To assess what effects the current political atmosphere may be having on society, the team used a form of social capital theory to consider the network of relationships between people who live and work in a society, and how they enable positive and negative social outcomes. Political mistrust is a large, looming issue present both in the 1850s and today, as are taxes and states' rights. And not surprisingly, the study does not offer much hope for a peaceful nation in the coming years. The researchers argue the likelihood of a protracted social and political conflicts lasting decades, if not generations, is essentially inevitable and will engulf public administration. Only the exact course of this bitter division remains to be seen. CIA Director Bill Burns has warned that unless U.S. sends more military support, Ukraine could lose the war against Russia by the end of the year. His comments mark one of the starkest warnings to date from the Biden administration on the stakes in Ukraine, as Congress debates whether to approve a long-delayed aid package to Kyiv. Only a month ago, Burns was warning in testimony that if Congress did not move to authorize additional support, long hampered by conservative opposition in the House of Representatives, Ukraine is likely to lose ground, and probably significant ground, in 2024. But this week, during an appearance at the George W. Bush Center, he warned that Ukraine could be forced to capitulate entirely. Burns warned, without supplemental assistance, the picture is a lot more dire. There is a very real risk that the Ukrainians could lose on the battlefield by the end of 2024, or at least put Putin in a position where he could dictate the terms of a political settlement. Ukraine's shortage of ammunition and military equipment, resulting from the U.S. and its allies' struggle to resupply the country's military, has had an increasingly dire effect on the battlefield.